Time for another video about Costco. So far we've seen how they have a secret business model because they're secretly a services company, you know, with their membership fees and stuff. We've seen how they run their operations with low cost, super efficient, and they just do a really good job. It's part of the reason why people love them. And we talked about their Kirkland brand, which is huge. I mean, I had no idea. And if you haven't seen any of those videos, I'll link to them somewhere. Go check them out. But all this stuff sounds cool and it seems like Costco would do really well, but how well are they actually doing? The only way we would know that is if we go into the numbers. So let's do it. And we are once again gonna use that slide presentation from Mine Safety Disclosures, which if you want to check it out, I'll put a link below. Now, when we're going through these slides, they're a little bit dated, but it's fine. I mean, you're still gonna get the trend and see how they are financially. Nothing has materially changed since this thing was published. Plus, Costco has earnings again on March 7th, so I'll probably do another video after that and go over what happened. And that's when I'll kind of go over this chart too and how I would look at investing in this thing. But okay, let's jump into it. So Costco is financially sound. Costco is in great financial shape. Sales and profits are strong and growing, margins are stable, and returns on capital are high. So you can see out of 130 billion in sales. So you can see that their revenue is growing at 8% year over year. And of that revenue, 98% comes from merchandise sales. Only 2% comes from membership fees, which I mean makes sense. They're moving a lot more merchandise than they are memberships. And 87% of this revenue comes from the US and Canada. They aren't very international. Only 13% is coming from international, which, you know, some people might say is a weakness because you want international coverage so you have some diversification, and a lot of growth is going to come from overseas versus the US. And if you said that, you know, it'd be a valid point, but not every company needs to be international. You can make good money and make a really great business just focused on the US and Canada. That's even more so when you're more of a services company like Costco. So they've had 8% compounded annual growth since 2000 and 6.5% since 2010. And here's that 8% compounded growth in chart form. Most of it, as we said, is merchandise sales. But when it comes to profit and cash flow, most of the profit comes from those membership fees. See, it says 75% of profit comes from membership fees, where only 25% comes from merchandise sales. And that makes sense, right? That's how their business model works. They're not focused on making money on the merchandise they're selling. They're focused on making money on the memberships, which is the service-oriented part of the business. And that membership money goes straight to the bottom line. There's barely any costs associated with it. So their income is growing at 9% year over year. Or you can see here, it's 8% if you take it back from 2000. Either way, it's growing real nice and steadily. So capital, there's 10.7 billion in shareholders capital. Now, I think by shareholders capital, he means shareholders equity. I might be wrong though. If I'm wrong, tell me down in the comments. But they only have 6.6 billion in long-term debt, and they get a 23% return on equity. So here this chart shows that that debt has pretty much stayed stable over the last few years, which is a good sign. You don't want companies taking on too much debt too fast. Steady debt and increasing profits drives up return on equity and return on capital. And of course, the stock price too. So now margins. So if we look at these margins, we see there's a 3% operating margin and a 2% net margin. And these margins are 2 to 3 times lower than Walmart and Target. Where you can see here, gross margin for Costco is 13%, Target is 30%. And operating margin, Costco is half of Target as well. And these margins have always been low. They've been stable for years because they're not trying to move them up like other retailers. But as we know, that's not a sign of weakness. It's a deliberate choice because we know about their business model, right? They're always just trying to provide the most value to their customers. They're always trying to lower that price. So here's Jim Senegal, the former CEO of Costco. Many retailers look at an item and say, I'm selling this for $10, but how am I going to move that to 11? We look at it and say, how can we get it down to 9? And then from there, how can we get it down to 8? And that's contrary to the thinking of a normal retailer who's always trying to see how much more profit you could get out of something. And again, this works because Costco runs the membership model. Their model is just completely different than these other retailers. So here you can see a nice summary of all of Costco's financials, and they continue to get stronger and stronger year over year. Because Costco doesn't need to make a profit on merchandise. They can live on margins that would starve other retailers. So we had a question actually the other day on one of the older Costco videos. This is Ice Cat 2009. Would Costco ever sell Kirkland products at other stores? It would be great if Target sold Kirkland stuff or some other store. And my response was basically that Kirkland doesn't work in other stores. So first of all, it might not work because they don't have any marketing on their packages. It's a really strong brand, but it's a strong brand inside of Costco. So if someone is coming to Costco Costco, they think Kirkland, okay, I know it's good, I'm gonna get it. They're not playing the game that other retailers do by trying to make their merchandise look really attractive on the shelf, so you pick that over a competitor. Kirkland is just plain. But more than that, the biggest reason why Kirkland wouldn't be in other stores is because Costco is basically subsidizing the prices for Kirkland. Kirkland is so cheap and has such good quality because of Costco's membership model. Like we've said a million times now, Costco isn't trying to make any money on what they're selling. They make money on the memberships. So Target couldn't take a Kirkland product and sell it for the same price at what Costco is selling it at, because it doesn't work. There's no membership for Target. It'd be too cheap and they wouldn't make any money. And if you're wondering why doesn't Target just sell those Kirkland products for a higher price, well, I mean, that's not gonna work. People are just gonna go to Costco, right? You make back that membership fee pretty fast. And not only that, but Costco won't want to diminish their brand name by selling it for higher prices in other stores. Their whole business value and what the whole company runs on is making things as cheap as possible for the customer, giving the customer the most value that they can. So selling Kirkland products at other stores for a higher price, that's not that. I actually got this guy who I call my Cheesecake Plug because he just makes the best cheesecakes, and because he doesn't sell those cheesecakes inside of stores, because he will give you a big cheesecake, like they're personal sized cheesecakes, but they're like rich and heavy and they're amazing, the best cheesecake in the world, but they'll be like this big and it'll only be $3, which is crazy cheap. And he doesn't sell it in stores because when he did, they would raise that price to $6, $8, and he wasn't having it because his goal and his mission is to spread cheesecake across the world. He wants to make cheesecake accessible for everyone. His name is Victor Cheesecake Washington. Great guy. And as soon as he was telling me about his plans for his cheesecake and how he wants to make it for everybody, that's when I fell in love. That's when I knew he'd be making my cheesecake forever. And I still eat that cheesecake today. Whenever someone comes to visit Detroit, I get one of those cheesecakes. And they take a few bites and they are blown away. They also fall asleep immediately because of the sugar coma. It's beautiful. But anyway, that's what you're gonna get from good businesses and good businessmen. They are really strict with their brand to ensure that customers can trust them. That's good business. And that good business, as you can see from these numbers, is working out pretty well for Costco. Works out pretty well for Victor too. And like I said, I'm gonna go over the latest earnings report for Costco that's gonna come out next week. So if you wanna see that video, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so you get a notification when that comes out. And in the meantime, you're gonna get a video every single day, either about business or the markets or something. So definitely subscribe. It's a great time. You get to hang out with all of us at the Fallible community. It's the second best membership you could have next to Costco. So subscribe and I'll see you in the next video. Stay fallible out there. Bye.